Right, so tracking calories and macros, what we're going to cover today is okay, well, how do we track calories in the first place? What are the benefits to tracking calories and macros, and how to make it really simple because a lot of people tend to struggle with decision fatigue when tracking calories and macros. And we want to try to simplify this with a system in place. All right, so why do we track? Well, this is a famous quote by Alex Ramosi. I can't take credit for it. What gets measured gets managed. Whether it be your calories coming in for your weight loss journey, whether it be your KPIs for your business, anything really that needs data to alter behaviors to get going in the right direction, it needs to be measured. For example, somebody who is financially illiterate
That's
and
right.
yes, they have a really good, income, but like their spending sucks. Well, they're likely
Yeah.
not able to set themselves up for the future versus somebody else who has had practice with budgeting. They can be a little bit more intuitive without a budget because their behaviors have been adjusted to what
Right.
has been measured. It's the same concept here.
Yep.
Now, why do we track accuracy? Obviously, we want to know exactly what's going in, whether that be the calories, the macronutrients, and or the micronutrients. And then most importantly, it's just simply building awareness of not only what food looks like, the serving sizes, the amount that we're getting in, but also like, where are our behaviors leading us towards? And like, what is the price that we're paying for that, for our behaviors? All right, some benefits here. Great fat loss due to improved accuracy. So we could be eating intuitively and we could be eating all the right foods, but if we're spilling somewhere, for example, let's just say little Jimmy, he's got to be eating 2,000 calories a day to be in a 3,500 calorie deficit for the week, which is a pound of fat. So let's just say he's on point Monday through Friday and he overspills Saturday, Sunday because he goes out to eat or has a social event, whatever it might be, and he overspills by a lot. That could be one thing that could be throwing him off, like because he's not tracking, or let's just say somebody who's eating intuitively and is eating very healthy, and let's just say it's a little Jimmy again eating 2,000 calories or trying to eat 2,000 calories. Going back to the example of the tablespoon of peanut butter, maybe on his plan it says 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and realistically he's getting 6 because that's what he thinks it is. That's a massive increase in calories up there. I think 2 tablespoons is 200 calories, but if he's getting 6 total, that's 600. If he's doing that every single day, he's getting an extra 400 calories a day. So little things like that.
Yeah.
Improve mindfulness around nutrition. Again, I mean, the goal is to make someone an intuitive eater because nobody wants to track calories and macros forever. There is a time and place to do this. And when it comes to a fat loss sprint, we're being very, I don't want to use the term aggressive, but we're being very intentional with fat loss. That's when it's appropriate to track calories and macros.
Right.
And again, like this improves your mindfulness. That way, when you do get to your weight, you can potentially let off the gas with the tracking, with the measuring, and you can eat more intuitively because your mindfulness has been sharpened from logging food, from measuring food. You start to become familiar with what 200 grams of chicken breast looks like. You start to become familiar with the calories and macros and whatever food you're eating. And I spelt this wrong, but flexibility too. Like you also get the flexibility to pick and choose what you want to eat. I always recommend that people do a combination of a meal plan and tracking calories and macros just so there's not too much flexibility because too much flexibility creates decision fatigue. So having a mix of a meal plan just to have as like a blueprint and a guide along with tracking and calories gives you that flexibility so you don't feel like you're tied to a ball and chain. There's two extremes. You have some people who just stick to a meal plan, they don't eat anything off of it. And you've got some people who they just make decisions off the fly or what feels good. And then again, they're constantly on their phone. They're constantly messing with the scale because there's no consistency. There's no structure. We want to find something in the middle. All right, here's how we make it simple. So I say this all the time in my content to my clients. Follow the three pillars. Number one is prioritizing nutrient dense foods. Secondly, build your meals around the protein source, and then just be mindful of the calories. And on top of that, what we want to do is start off by, like I said, making sure that we're choosing primarily nutrient dense foods, building it around protein. If you're in the early phases of tracking, I wouldn't get too meticulous with the carbs and the fats because fat loss, carbs and fats are interchangeable as long as calories and protein is equated. We don't really see any differences. So, some people really overanalyze it and they feel like they've got to get close to the T with every single macro. I always suggest just going for the protein, just going for the calories, and keeping the quality high. And we can adjust the carbs and fats, as we progress in the journey, as you become more experienced. And that simply just comes down to choosing less carbs and more protein and fat options. It's actually really simple, but again, in the beginning, try not to overanalyze that portion of it. It keeps it a lot more simple and a lot less decision fatigue. Want to plan ahead too. So again, going what I said in the previous slide is we don't want to make decisions on the fly all the time. We want to have some sort of plan to where we can just simply log it easy. In my app, in the Kahuna's app, and even in my Fitness Pal, you're able to like preload meals that you ate the day before. So let's just say you have a
Right.
lunch that's very consistent. You can just go on the app, copy and paste, you're good to go. Easy as that. I would also recommend doing the same for your breakfast at least. And then what I personally do and what I've seen be effective for a lot of people, a lot of clients is they leave dinners open kind of for whatever. Like that's the one decision that you have to make. But again, let's just say you're having 3 meals a day. You don't want to make 3 decisions on the spot with food
Right.
like 3 times in a row because again, that's just going to create a lot of decision fatigue. There are some people who do that, but most people, I just don't recommend it. Because again,
Right.
we don't want to make decisions based off of what feels good in the moment. We want to have some sort of plan. And going back to what I said in the previous slide, a combination of a plan and a little bit of tracking for that flexibility is what's most sustainable for most people. That leads me to my next point is staple meals that can easily be logged. So if you've got a breakfast that you love, let's just say it's beef, eggs, and like bananas or something like that, that's easy to log and easy to log again. And you can also make very small deviations off of that. If you don't want to do the banana, simply replace it with whatever other fruit, like 2 apples or something like that. It's really simple. If you
Yep.
don't want to do, say, the beef, you can swap it for like some yogurt and I don't know, maybe some peanut butter. I'm just throwing out examples here.
Sure.
But the point is if you're sticking to the 3 pillars, which all of that I mentioned is pretty nutrient dense and very high in protein, being within your calorie range is really simple. But again, come just to wrap it all up, I think planning ahead initially and like logging what you're going to be eating for the next day. I'm not saying doing for the entire week, but log your breakfast and your lunch for the 2 days. Like have an idea of what that is, and then when you're right there on the spot, you can simply boom put it in the app right there, and then again you have one decision to make, which is dinner usually, and from there you should get the hang of things and start to become familiar with, okay, these are like the staple meals that I'm having that my family has. Because most people who are really successful with just being healthy and like being on point with their nutrition, they're pretty much eating the same 10 to 15 meals with the exception of a couple deviations. For example, like swapping potato for rice or swapping turkey for chicken. Those are just small examples right there of like small macro swaps. But again, the more you do this, the better you get at it because the goal is to
Yep.
become an intuitive eater and not have to rely on this stuff. But again, like we have to measure what's going in. That way we can manage our behaviors and our choices going forward.